Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cash Flow Project Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fieros. I am here today. Super cool setup too, is we're borrowing my buddy Alex's studio. So we're doing it in person recording.
I was about to say, thanks for having me here, but this is my house.
But yeah, just wanted to introduce everybody. So this is Alex Cheng. So he is the company owner for instaMERSION Studio. So he does videography, does digital marketing. He's also a pastor at Christ-Centered Community Church here in Hawaii. And he's also a he's a real estate investor with some long distance properties on the mainland. And then, of course, I'm here locally. So, Alex, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me at my own house.
Well, so, super excited. Of course, we've been talking off the air. Glad to have you, of course, on our podcast. But for our listeners that, may not be aware of who you are and kind of what you've got going on, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know.
Yeah. Like you shared, it's just a constant juggling act. I feel every week, kind of wearing different hats, from a business owner to a pastor. We actually have a micro church that we run at our house too, over the weekends, and then also doing a lot of real estate on the side, which has kind of been minimal lifting, I guess, right? Because things kind of being more on the passive side, but setting things up enough to where I could focus on doing the things that I love doing while just having my money work for me on the side.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and I think for all of us, that's kind of the long-term goal, right? How did you get started in your journey into developing passive income, real estate? Tell us a little bit about
it. It was all actually through luck of the draw. And actually, it kind of took a tragedy. I got my first house actually in 2004. And so this was when the market was relatively, still competitive, but at the time, prices were pretty low. I had just gotten married. This was my first marriage and went through a really bad divorce through that process. But we had put our names into a lottery for a new development out in central Oahu. And so just brand new spanking house. Again, probably nothing, probably for what you can pay for a studio in town right now, but a 3-bedroom, 2.5. Just got really lucky getting into that property early. Went through a very unfortunate divorce during that time and was stuck with, what I thought at the time was just heavy mortgage payments. And I just said, I don't even know if I could keep this property or let alone afford, just all the expenses. But my parents were just encouraging me and just saying, hey, you know what, this is going to be worth it for the long run. Just keep paying down the mortgage and you'll see the fruits of your labor. Just watch and wait and see. And so what happened was, within a span of time, that property had more than doubled within its value. And then I just had this huge chunk of equity that I didn't know what to do with, because I was thinking, hey, I can actually retire, right? I can just live off of this. But then there is a side of me that said, well, you know what? There's got to be a smarter way of being able to use my money to make more money. And then not just only for the sake of money, but wanting to leave more of a legacy for my family, for my children, for my children's children, right? And so I was always wondering, how can I get myself, even though I had this kind of huge this huge gold mine, so to speak, my cash flow situation with my job and my expenses, I wasn't too good in budgeting, just all the kind of basic Dave Ramsey kind of stuff, right? I was just kind of horrible at that. And I know I needed help, because at the end of every month, I felt like I was working so hard, getting so many projects, spending frivolously, and at the same time, only having about $100 to $200 left a month. And then I thought, man, something needs to change, because I'm working so much, but kind of reaping so little rewards for the fruit of my labor. And so that's when I started hearing different stories and testimonies of other friends that were buying rental properties, They were telling me about their cash flow situations. I would have close friends just be paying for new cars in cash. And I was like, what are these guys doing? Because it's obviously not what I'm doing. And I want to get in on this. And so I literally had just lunches with a bunch of very successful friends that were in the game. And then I just kept on hearing the word TARDIS over again. And so that just inspired me to actually go check out this company called TARDIS Wealth Strategies, which we have a very awesome relationship with right now. And not only was I a client, but actually now they're one of my clients through my business and through videography. So we have this very awesome kind of give-take relationship. But it was through TARDIS that I was able to learn about their patented income snowball, which is pretty much, it's this revolutionary way of looking, creating your wealth as a system that most businesses do, but a lot of people personally don't know that this sort of product or this sort of method even exists. And so once we started implementing this system to our finances, and then I was just getting married at the time, again, to now my current bride, Leela. But just the education that we learned from there through real estate investing, through this new wealth system, cash flow. We even became minimalists for a season and just saw the value of how every dollar worked in terms of now being able to put things into a system where your money's not only compounding, but you're also reverse compounding, paying off debt at the same time, and just seeing, hey, there's no other system like this where, again, you can use leverage in a way that's very wise, right? Because leverage isn't for everybody without the right education or without the right coaching. But if you're able to take, for instance, the equity that I had in my first home, I converted all that into down payments for real estate, into first trust deeds. We converted our whole Roth IRA to a self-directed IRA, bought property through there, created an infinite banking system with permanent life insurance. And so just creating all these different vehicles of passive income so that when maybe if things got slow on my instaMERSION side, or maybe if the church side, maybe if there were cutbacks or whatever, that it wouldn't necessarily be a blow because I would know that, no, I have all these different things that are working for me in my sleep. And I can just focus doing what it is that I love doing, which is more the pastoring, the shepherding, church planting, discipling, and so forth.
That's awesome. And, for a lot of our listeners, that's usually a reason why most people get into real estate or investing in general, right? Is you start to realize, okay, well, the time is so much more valuable, right? Yeah. Like if you don't enjoy doing your day job, whatever, that's okay. As long as you know that you're working towards something else and it's building, right?
Yeah,
to be able to, all right, well, I do enjoy doing this. Okay, perfect. You just need to be able to have the time to be able to do it. So it sounds like you went out, made some contacts, of course. All I heard was bunches of lunches. So,
it was a bunches of lunches, a lot of plate lunches.
But so like the networking portion, right? And I know that's a lesson that I've personally learned in, my journey into real estate investing is, okay, it's the networking function. It's like, all right, well, you got to surround yourself with people who are where you want to be, right? And also too, that are maybe further down the road than you are, because we don't know what we don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Right? I remember just a great pastor once said, eagles soar with eagles and turkeys trot with turkeys. And there's just so much truth to that, right? Because you become like the people that you surround yourselves with. And if you're not surrounding yourself with a network or with people that are killing it, then you're not going to be killing it, right? If you're around other people that are struggling, that are, having more of a destitute or poverty mindset, then that's obviously going to hit you like a plague too, right? And we're going to naturally become who we surround ourselves with. So I was at that point where I said, you know what? I want to surround myself with other people that I can learn from. Again, other people that are just killing it, people that I can glean from and just ask questions and even, kind of fail a little bit, but then have people to kind of encourage you along the journey to say, no, like actually, if you tried this or if you did this, then, you could be successful. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So you're up to how many properties now?
We're up to 10 properties right now. And then it's a whole diversification of properties in Hawaii, properties in the mainland, first trust deeds, properties within self-directed IRAs. But yeah, just enough of a diversity to where Again, all cash flowing properties, right? For the most part, except for I think I have one Hawaii one that's breaking even, and I consider that even as a success in Hawaii, being able to have our renter pay for our mortgage, pay for our maintenance fees, association fees, insurance, and all that. So to be in a break even situation, I feel like for Hawaii is awesome. But then again, I remember just the owner of TARDIS always telling me, like, you want your assets paying for your liabilities, right? And so just being able to kind of maneuver and set things up in a way where, we're just sitting back. We have great teams of property managers, people that will look after our property, tell us when things are a little bit off. But then at the same time too, I'm not the one making calls at 3 a.m. if there's a pipe that bursts or if there is a window that breaks or whatever it is. But just knowing, like, we can rest assured knowing that we have this killer team that if anything goes wrong, then they have our backs. And if there's an eviction, if somebody hasn't paid their rent late, or if they haven't paid their rent on time, that it's always in their best interest to best serve us so that everybody profits, right?
All right. So it's like win-win-win.
Total win-win. Yeah.
Across the board. Yeah, for sure.
And I've never, regarding the properties, I'm sure you've experienced this too, where, the properties that we have in Alabama, in Texas, in Missouri, we've never physically visited any one of those places. Everything has been all DocuSign, power of the internet, digital photos, just communication through phone and email. It's been awesome. It's been awesome.
That's awesome. And it's actually a really common, I feel like it's a common objection. It's a common sentiment. I feel like we're here in Hawaii, right? So a very expensive market. And, some of our listeners and, subscribers are same thing, right? They're in expensive markets and people would say, okay, well, I can't invest in my, my own home market.
Yeah.
Right. And they express fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? They FUD, right? It's a common saying now about buying at a distance. And, what advice would you have to somebody like that? It's like, well, no, if I can't see it, I can't touch it.
Sure.
How can I possibly buy a house?
Absolutely. I think it would be along the journey of what I did, have bunches of lunches with people that have done it, gain the trust, learn from people that are more experienced, and again, people that are killing it, people that have portfolios, people that can show evidence of, how numbers work. I think that's a good step. I'm always telling all my friends who are looking to buy property for themselves, because I feel like if you don't have your own nest set up, then it's going to be harder to make other investments, and obviously just renting for the rest of your life, you're not going to get a lot of gains through there, because that's all good money that can be poured into paying off your mortgage, paying off your house, something that's gaining equity astronomically, right, in value. And so, whether you start with a studio, whether you start with a 1-bedroom, just start with something. Whereas within a 5 to 10 year range, especially in Hawaii, like you saw with the example of our property, where it was about like a 330 investment, but then now over 700,000. So just having that room, and then again, nothing that we didn't work any harder. I didn't become more knowledgeable in real estate. It was just the market doing its thing, because on an island, you only have so much space where you can build. If you can get into something new, even more awesome, but that's rare. But even right now, as you as a realtor, you're seeing even just older, more distressed properties, they're getting crazy incremental values just because it's Hawaii, right? And then after a while, you can only build probably up, right? Which is why you're seeing this whole slew of high rises and around Ward and Kaka'ako, and even those things going for starting at the millions for just studios, right? And so if you can get into anything, I would just get into something that has a good framework, spend good money on doing renovations, and whether you want to pull leverage off of that after a certain time, or even if you want to sell it and upgrade, there's a lot of opportunities you can do. But if you're not in the game, then it's going to be harder to be able to say, hey, how do I just work and save to get into my first investment, which is usually won't happen if that's the mentality.
Yeah, it's the rat race, right?
It's the rat race, yeah.
The same thing.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can't win the game if you're just running in that continual wheel, right? You're just going to continue to spin and spin and spin, exert all of your life energy and never go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's awesome. So you're at 10 properties now. Is that it? Are you done? Like, have you hit
I'm always
your
telling
financial
myself that. I have a friend that is always joking with me because he's my loans guy. And so he sees all my numbers and knows exactly what we're dealing with. And I'm always saying, okay, this is the last transaction. This is the last closing. And he's always like, yeah, right. So I think at this point, we're very blessed. Obviously we've been able to give more than ever. Now having more knowledge and experience about real estate and having taking certain risks, but knowing that they're not really like risks, right? But enough to be educated to where there could be good returns. I think it's just something that's in the blood from my parents and then from my dad, who was a real estate investor, foreclosure expert back in the day. But looking ahead, I think we were having conversations too. I love to just kind of add to diversification. Now, I'm interested more in the syndication side of things, more commercial. Being able to hui just having something a little bit different from what we're used to, just again, to be able to have that balance in portfolio. And so, I'm always excited for just new opportunities. But it's getting a little bit more competitive, right? I mean, even as I'm keeping an eye open for single family homes in the mainland, appreciation even there has gone from 70,000 to now like in the 140, 150,000s, right? And so knowing
in the same market
in the same market,
okay.
So it's like we've been blessed to have all those houses shoot up in appreciation, but now wanting to kind of get into newer properties. I don't know if that's the route that I'm going to go next. I think it's kind of time to take a different kind of spin to it. And I think that's where we're probably going to have a nice coffee after this conversation.
See, that's the cool thing too, right? Like Alex is sharing, like he did have exposure to real estate investing, right, with his family. But he still had to kind of go seek that out. And I've heard that from a number of different people, and we've interviewed people on the podcast before, where it's a mindset shift, right? At some point,
absolutely.
For me personally, okay, hey, we didn't buy a property until I had to kind of break that limited mindset, and for Alex too, like even though he had exposure to, let's say through your dad. Right, exposure through real estate investing. At some point, you had to kind of make that your own. Yeah, right.
And, I mean, like what you mentioned about just having that renewed mind, right? Because we all probably grew up in a way where it was just work and save, and sometimes it was just work and spend and not have anything to save, right? And just kind of repeat that process, and always that feeling of, like I never have enough, or I have to work harder, or I have to get more jobs, or whatnot, but. Just being open to just the education that's out there. There's a ton of things that are just revolutionary and just mind-blowing when it comes to having more of an advanced education in finance. I literally spent, when I had started TARDIS, I spent about 2 years just saying, you know what, this has been one of my weakest areas in finance, because I was always had that poverty mindset. But I said, you know what, this is something that I want to take advantage of all this education that I'm getting, learn whatever I can so I know exactly where every penny is going, what's being invested, and how do I make, rather than go to a financial advisor or depend on somebody that, granted, like they're experts, right, in what they do, but it's like, well, why can't I become an expert in my own mind and have more control of my own portfolio so that the decisions that I am making, they're going to have a lot greater return. I'm going to be able to see the effects of, how this is going to not only affect me, but my family and just the things that we get to do. And so.
Yeah. And I mean, no better time than like the present now too, right?
Oh my gosh,
I mean, this is part of one of the reasons that we do the show too, right? Of course, is to bring, people who have had life-changing experiences through real estate as as an investment vehicle, but to be able to better their positions, right?
No, like you mentioned, just with the advancement of technology too, the financial game is changing month to month, week to week, right? The education, I feel that most of us learn is just something that's so ingrained into our heads that as the world is changing, as the internet is changing, we're not realizing that, hey, like finance is changing big time too, right? You can probably testify that, I remember signing for my first house and just having stacks of papers, hundreds of papers that I had to sign just to make the transaction legit. But now with DocuSign, with everything, I was like, oh, these are like the quickest closings ever.
Yes.
Having mobile notaries and where people are coming to our house to do closings rather than having to go to, like the title offices or whatnot. Like things are just kind of going at a whole different rate, whole different level. So if we're not constantly learning and progressing in that sense, then it's going to be really easy to be left in the dust and wondering like, hey, like how come I'm not making any advancements, or how come things aren't moving, and why is my situation just staying the same, right?
Yeah, that's powerful, because even just like that, right? Like you mentioned, it's asking yourself those questions, right? Because if you may find that you're on the wheel and you don't even realize that. Yeah. But if you got to stop, revisit your situation, like, all right, well, what do you, and really ask yourself, like, well, okay, well, what do I see for myself in 10 years? Like,
and also ask for help too, right? Yeah. Because there's a lot of coaching out there. There's a lot of, I think people get kind of tripped up about, kind of get rich quick things, right? But I think that's where you were mentioning just these meetups, meeting people in person, going to different events, having the bunches of lunches, right? Have tangible conversations with people that are a lot more knowledgeable than you, so you can learn from them, you can learn from their experience, and then because I feel like we were talking earlier that a lot of people that are in the positions that we are, I love talking about this because it's not about me knowing it all, but it's about, hey, I've taken the time to learn to a certain extent to where I can't help but testify to want to see other people have success financially so that they would be more free to do what they're called to do, rather than, I remember just being on missions years ago, and my whole livelihood was based on support. And every month I was literally down to the penny, thinking like, oh, like, how am I going to eat? Am I going to even have food? So I wasn't able to focus on my ministry. I was too concerned about my own affairs. And so I always look back at that situation and think, oh, like, what a better situation it would have been if I didn't have to even worry about finances, but I can just focus on giving, having resources, and just pouring my heart into what it is that I loved. And so that's just really the passion that I have for finance. Is not about just getting rich for getting rich sake, but it's having the freedom, it's having the time, it's having the energy to pour into other people and to serve other people. Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing, right? It gives you options. It gives the people around you additional options, right? Like you can free up something or explore a different part of, like, let's say, your life. Absolutely. Maybe you have a hidden talent, right? Like you didn't even know because, or you want to try a new business, or right? There's a lot of people that are stuck, or that feel like, oh, like I'm just at my 9 to 5 and all these things that I really want to do, they're either spending up late hours or the weekends, but not able to give their own passions through their own giftings, their best energy. And so that's what having financial freedom does for you, right? Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, it's you can't place a dollar amount on, let's say, the value of your time, your life, right? The time that you want to spend with your loved ones, your, family members, your kids, whatever. And like I said, we've had so many people on, like, that are just, they've had like life-changing experiences where it's like, you realize, man, I can't, I mean, I enjoy doing my work, but at the same time too, there's other things that I want to be able to commit that time and give. Oh, absolutely. And then you guys are a living testimony of that too, right? To where, like, you have been able to see how making wise decisions financially is able to just free up your family, right? Yeah. And so, like, to me, that's just, I don't know, it's just awesome to be able to know that my friends are just killing it too. And I love it. Yeah, and we're just getting started too, right? Like all of us. And so that's the thing too, right? You got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. So and I love that, like you and your story, like, okay, you literally made lemons, well, not literally, but lemonade from lemons, right? Took a situation that, of course is what I thought was tragic. It wasn't ideal, but at the same time too, through just kind of sticking to the plan and then being open to, allow the market to do what it's going to do, allow inflation to do what inflation is going to do, but at the same time too, don't lose hope and just keep educating yourself in not only saying, yeah, like how can I just save more, but like, hey, learn about investing, learn about real estate, learn about the other things that are out there. Start thinking like a business rather than somebody just getting a W-2, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I feel that if we start thinking like entrepreneurs in the financial sense, then there's just so much to gain. Much to gain from that.
No, for sure. And unfortunately, I like kind of you mentioned earlier, right? Like, okay, the market and kind of life, the pace of life now is changing so rapidly.
Drastic, yeah.
The financial markets, like just, I think everyday life was just, in the last 2 years, right? Like we're shooting this in 2020, end of 2021. And the last 2 years, right, have just been crazy. It's literally turned the world on its head, but it's fast tracked so many different things, different businesses, different aspects, and hopefully it's woken people up to reevaluating their situation.
Absolutely,
right? And what's important.
Yeah, and then I feel like the pandemic has forced a lot of people to. There's two ends of the spectrum, right? We're either kind of the victims trying to play it safe, fending for our own selves, or, hey, there's all this new opportunity that is happening. You've seen just the real estate market shift from virtual showings to, and then actually 2020, a lot of the financial companies, people in real estate, people that are killing it that I'm talking to, they're saying, hey, like it was because of that shift and them being forced to think differently and to move differently and to react differently, that they had the best financial years of their lives, right? And it's like, wait, in the midst of a pandemic where people are losing jobs and, God forbid anybody having to go through those circumstances, but being able to adapt and being able to say, hey, no, you know what? I'm actually going to see this as opportunity to innovate. Oh my gosh, just the possibilities are endless, right?
Yep. Well, as we kind of transition now to, we do a fire round every one of our episodes. So, not to do crazy, but all right. So, first question: what book would you recommend other than Rich Dad Poor Dad? And it doesn't have to be real estate; it can be anything,
for me, it's always the Bible. That's the core of just everything that I believe, and just it's the best story of humanity and hope and mankind and eternity.
All right, yeah, you get solid answer. You can get better than that, right? So for those, what's your superpower? What would you consider your
My
superpower?
superpower is probably jumping off cliffs. I'm a risk taker. I don't mind getting hurt, learning from the process, getting a little bit scuffled up. I never see any risk as a failure, especially if it's done for God, if it's done for the sake of others. That's the best way to learn. I've had so many failed businesses, so many failed ventures, so many failed even investments too, right? But it's like just the learning opportunities that I had from there, they forever changed me.
Fail forward, right?
Fail forward, yes.
Yeah, I love that. So what advice would you have to somebody, trying to get started in their journey to financial freedom? I know we've kind of touched on a few different things, but if you had to kind of do something succinct.
I think the very first thing is just to know where you stand financially, because a lot of people, they don't even know their own numbers, right? They don't have budget sheets. They don't have conversations with their spouses, what their goals are. So just take a hard look at what your budget is. I don't know if it's just because I'm Chinese, but I'm always trying to find different ways to shave off dollars, shave off expenses. But just know your cash flow point. And I feel like if you're able to build up your financial situation to where you're at least cash flowing a consistent $1,000 a month, and that's not a lot, right? But I feel like if you can at least have that as a base, then you're on the start of being able to do a lot of creative things financially.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then how can people get in touch with you? If people want to reach out and connect with you, how can they do that?
The best way is just maybe shoot me an email, alex@instaMERSION.com.
All right. Right on. Well, awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show today with us, Alex. Thanks for hosting us in your studio too. But thank you guys for listening and tuning in.
God bless.
All right. Oh man, what an awesome show here with Alex. Again, just thanks for his time he was sharing with us. And again, just want to remind you guys, if you found value in this podcast, make sure that you're sharing that with others. Of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, of course, feel free to subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review too, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're, listening to the show at or watching the show. If it's on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so you get all the notifications for the latest episodes released. And of course, if you want to connect with other local like-minded individuals here, join us on our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and More. We do monthly meetups, virtual and in person. Again, recently we've started those back up. So we just had one recently. So would love to see you out in person. But of course, join at a distance too. And then also, just as a quick reminder, we do have our conference coming up next year, July 21st through the 24th. Out at the Four Seasons in Colina. So if you're listening to somewhere else, of course, you can make plenty of time to make plans to be able to come out and join us. There is the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference, the Blueprint. So we'll make sure to leave the link for that down in the show notes so you can go in and get your tickets. But we'd love to see you out there if you want to come out and join like-minded professionals, people looking to better their position. Again, it's all about connections and your mindset. And so, we want to give people every opportunity to be able to do that. So we'd love to see you out at the conference next year. But thanks again for tuning in, guys. And we will see you on the next episode. Aloha.